morning. My name is Nate Zaleski. I'm Department Chair of Fire Protection and Technology here at ACC. We're here to meet with Mr. James Daniels, our new Department Chair of Emergency Management, who's heading our Emergency Management Associate's Degree program. We're located at the Public Safety Training Center right down the road from the Hayes campus. So this morning I'd like to introduce James to ACC. James, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with emergency management?
Well, I spent 22 years in the Army, a retired as Lieutenant Colonel. And needless to say in that, I got used to dealing with some high-stress situations as well as planning and coordinating. So I came out, I spent a little time working as a contractor for the Army, a consultant, planning training and other types of training products. From there I moved on. I had the opportunity to work with Texas Department of Emergency Management doing continuity planning for Department of Public Safety. Did that for a couple of years, did some other things, wound up spending about 3 years with the Texas Workforce Commission working in risk and security management. And then I was contacted by someone here at ACC. They were looking for someone to teach classes in Homeland Security. Besides my military experience, I also have a master's degree in international relations and a master's in security management, so I seemed to be a good fit. So I started out teaching as an adjunct, and then they started looking for someone to take over their emergency management program, and I got the call.
Oh, great. And I know James has got experience in teaching in other areas. Where else have you taught besides ACC?
Professionally, my main experience has been in the Army, mainly with the U.S. Army School of the Americas. At the time I was there, I was in the section that was teaching special operations. So we were mainly counter-drug at the time, and we've taught police and military from most of the countries in Latin America. I went through the Army's instructor training course there, both in English and then again in Spanish. So I've been certified to both develop and to give instruction in both those areas. And I've also worked at some of the higher levels of administration in terms of planning, training on division and other levels.
Wow. The emergency management program is relatively new here at ACC, and a lot of people really don't understand what emergency management is. Can you kind of give us a little background, an idea of what is emergency management?
Well, I like to joke that it's great for people like me with a limited attention span. As an emergency manager, you wind up having kind of a finger in every pot. When you look at what's prior to the emergency, prior to the incident, we spend our time doing plans, doing preparations, doing mitigation measures, doing everything we can to make sure that the disaster doesn't occur in things that are preventable, and to minimize the damage when it does occur. Once an emergency happens, then we work as a coordinating element, helping the police, the fire, the EMTs, everyone else do their job by taking the burden off of them of coordinations and preparations. I like to say that we do everything the specialists don't, so the specialists can do their job. To give an example, in the Bastrop fires that hit a few years back, emergency managers weren't out there fighting the fires, but they were setting up life support for the firefighters that were, the places that they spent the night when they were on their downtime, their medical support, their child support. They were working evacuation for the people who had to leave their homes, shelter operations. They coordinated with the Red Cross to provide support there. They coordinated with FEMA to bring in federal elements, and then with other jurisdictions outside of Bastrop County to bring in the additional people that they had to help fight the fires and everything else. So basically everything that the firemen, the police, and the EMTs themselves weren't doing, the emergency managers were taking care of so that they could concentrate on their own specialty.
Wow. So you mentioned a lot about emergencies and things like that and disasters. Is emergency management, does it just specifically deal with disasters and emergency response?
No, actually it does not. It's much broader than that, because the kind of things that we do, the coordination, the plan we make, the people we deal with, gives us the experience and the context to work in a lot of things besides just disasters. For example, here in Austin, things like Austin city limits, South by Southwest, emergency managers are going to be deeply involved in all the planning for those, because they're doing a lot of the same things, working with first responders, doing plans, trying to prevent disasters before they occur, but being ready for them when they do. When I first started out working in emergency management, I was actually working for a consulting company that one of the jobs they bid on was the funeral procession and ceremonies for George H.W. Bush. This was several years before he passed. But he had made it clear that what he wanted where he wanted to be buried and where he wanted the services conducted. And so the city of Houston was putting out for bids to consultant companies in emergency management to do the planning and the preparations for that.
Wow. So you did mention that you work for a consulting company in emergency management. So it's not just about government or city type employment or state agencies. It's deeper than just government type agencies.
Yeah. It's much broader. A lot of the things that we do in emergency management, as I mentioned, are planning, and a lot of that is very labor intensive, especially at the beginning, but not necessarily once the plan is done. So there is a demand for consultants that can come in, do the planning, set everything up, and then walk away and let the jurisdiction continue to run it, maybe come back in and check it every now and then.
So just to kind of expand on that question, we know that emergency management exists in government agencies and then, as you said, in consulting agencies. But what about in private business? Does emergency management exist in private business as well?
It is, and there's a growing demand for it as private businesses come to realize their own vulnerabilities. Our society is becoming ever more complex, ever more interconnected, and people are starting to realize, especially in your major businesses or businesses that deal with hazardous chemicals and potential situations like that, that they can't just sit around and wait for the government to help them out. We've actually been contacted by a local distillery that is looking to hire some of our graduates because they understand, hey, we're working here with large amounts of flammable liquid. We could have a potential problem here. And of course, people like railroad companies, transportation companies, especially those that handle hazardous chemicals, they don't want to have an accident and then say, okay, government, please tell us what to do. They want to be proactive, be prepared, and have their own answer to the question when that happens.
So kind of understanding a little bit about emergency management now, what would you say, what kind of person makes a good emergency manager?
Well, as I said, people that have short attention spans, but it's someone that wants to serve, that wants to help out the community, because even if you're working for private industry, you're still serving the community in a very real way. An industrial accident doesn't just affect the company, it affects the people that live around it. So people that want to serve, people that have a broad range of interests, as I said, people with short attention spans, because you're going to be working with a lot of people with good people skills. People that are good at planning and logically thinking things through, looking at second and third order effects. Among my students, I also have a lot of people that are already involved in emergency management in some way, firefighters, policemen, EMTs, people that are looking to burnish their credentials and move further in their own job, people that are looking at possibly transitioning from their job to somewhere else. So we've got a broad range of people. It's also a very good fit for veterans. The instant command system that we use in emergency management is modeled on the military's decision-making system and command system, and that's not an accident. It was actually originally developed by the California Army National Guard as a way of responding to wildfires, and FEMA liked it, and so it kind of became the standard for everybody. So it's a very good fit for veterans because they're accustomed to the systems we use, and also because in many ways it's kind of like being in the military in that you spend a lot of time planning and prepping for things you really hope never happen. So veterans are good at that. They're good at the high stress. They're familiar with the system. It's also something we've seen some veterans that have got some physical disabilities that force them to leave the service have found a home in emergency management. There are also people out there that spent their lives dreaming of being a fireman or a police officer, and then something came up and they weren't able to, and they found emergency management to be a great transition. I know a guy who spent his whole life wanting to be a fireman, and then when it went to the physical, found out an issue, I believe it was either lower back or knee, and so he was diverted into emergency management. It's doing a great job there.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, that's pretty much all that I have today. Is there anything you'd like to add in regards to the emergency management program?
Just that we are open for business. One of the things I really love about the program, as anyone who's ever worked in emergency will tell you, having a prepared population is one of the things that really helps out, because the more people can help themselves, the easier it is for the specialists to help the people that really need it. And people that come through our program, even the ones that don't go into emergency management, go away, I think, better prepared to take care of themselves and their families.
Great. So. Yeah, that's great. So I like to say thank you for taking time to sit down with us, and we're really excited about this new emergency management program, and extremely happy to have James on board leading this program. Thank you.
Thank you.